I-24 News Desk. I'm Alec Pollard as we continue to cover here the terror attack that took place this morning in Jerusalem when a Palestinian terrorist carrying a gun opened fire, killing one person and injuring 3 others, one of them in serious condition in hospital right now. The gunman was shot and killed at the scene by Israeli security forces. He is 42-year-old Fadi Abu Shahidam, a member of Hamas and from the Shuafat refugee camp. Police say the attacker's wife left the country 3 days ago, indicating the attack was possibly planned several days in advance. Here's what the security forces had to say on the matter. This is a serious terror attack that was perpetrated by someone who we know who it is, but it wasn't military. The response was fast. Within 32 seconds, they engaged the attacker from several directions and were able to kill the terrorist. Unfortunately, we have 1 casualty who was shot and was killed. We have 1 seriously injured and 2 policemen who were lightly injured. I want to commend again the quick response of the security forces to this event. In this moment, we continue with our investigation of the events and of the attacker and the people he was associated with. And at the scene is our defense correspondent, Jonathan Regev. Jonathan, what more can you tell us? More details emerging about the identity of the attacker.
Yes, more details. First, I think we can definitely say at this time that this is not a lone wolf attack. Lone wolf meaning someone wakes up in the morning, usually young people, and they read inciting posts on social media and grab a knife from the kitchen and go out looking to stab Jewish people. This is not the case. It looks to be something pre-planned. The assailant having a rifle, his wife leaving the country a few days ago. His age, this is not a young man, but a 42-year-old man. Therefore, a lot of things indicating that this is something pre-planned. Another interesting aspect, it was 48 hours ago, last Friday, when the UK, Britain, announced that Hamas, both military and political wing, are basically considered a terror organization, and this man is the leader, possibly the leader of the political wing of Hamas in the Shuafat neighborhood in Jerusalem, indicating that maybe there's not a lot of difference between the political and the military wing. This is regarding the assailant. This happened at 9 a.m. local time, exactly 4 hours ago, and we were able to speak to people here in the area who saw and heard everything that was happening. Let's listen.
You can't say in this time that we're used to it, but yes, we're sort of used to it. Living in a place which is probably the main conflict area, so we're used to it. We're used to the interaction with but yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult when you're sitting, you're working, and suddenly you hear the shot. It's sort of, let's put it this way, the emotions are sort of mixed feelings. We're here to stay here. We're here to stay, and we're obviously not gonna. Neither of the sides are gonna move anywhere, and we have to live with it day by day.
Jonathan, at least in the background there, we see that there's not that many people, but actually right now, there are people behind you. So is it back to normal over there? What's going on?
Yes, the street is back to normal. This is one of the main routes from the Jaffa Gate to the Western Wall. The Western Wall being very close to us, so the street is being cleaned up. There's no physical evidence of what happened here just hours ago. There are people, not a lot of them. What we see even more is a very heavy police presence. It's something that we see here all the time, even in days that are considered quiet, and especially now, as there are clearly fears among the Israeli security establishment that this attack could lead to other copycat attacks. So we see a lot of police presence here in the area and all over the old city.
Certainly one attack like this can spark something greater. So obviously the security forces are on high alert. Jonathan Regev reporting there from Jerusalem. Thank you very much. And here's what Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett said today at the cabinet meeting.
I ordered the security forces to prepare accordingly and show vigilance, also out of fear of copycat attacks. We need to increase vigilance and prevent further attacks.
And Public Security Minister Omer Bar-Lev was also at the scene. Here's what he had to say.
He was a Hamas member. He belonged to the Hamas political faction, not the military faction. According to the pictures taken from his back, he either wore a very wide galabia or he was indeed disguised as an ultra-Orthodox. All of these things will be tested. His wife left abroad 3 days ago. One of his sons is also abroad. He himself is from Shuafat. We are, of course, locating his house. It does seem to be a planned attack. In my estimation, based on what I heard, he planned it while his wife fled abroad and then he decided to do it.
And for more on this, we're joined by Reserve Colonel Olivier Rafovitz, a senior security and military consultant. Olivier, so what's the bigger picture, the wider picture now that this incident has concluded?
Good afternoon. I believe that the bigger picture is a new wave of terrorist attacks, mostly in Jerusalem, and Hamas and Islamic Jihad inspired. We don't know at the moment if it is directly connected to Hamas or it is, I would say, a lonely wolf connected to Hamas. But at the end of the day, it is a new wave of terror attacks against Jewish goals or targets from these groups in Israel.
And Olivia, there is now unrest also going on in the West Bank, where the Palestinian authorities cracking down on Hamas and Islamic Jihad militants in Jenin. So is there a possibility that there might be some sort of connection there between those two events?
First of all, I would like to mention that at the moment, Islamic Jihad groups in Gaza and the Hamas leadership congratulated the terrorists. It means that there is, first of all, a real willingness from these groups to support and to be not behind the scene, but at the front of the scene, and to say we are directly interested by this wave of terror against Israel. Now, what you mentioned is very important because it means that there is right now a common interest between the Palestinian Authority leadership and the State of Israel to combat, to fight together Islamic Jihad and Hamas. Now it is in Jenin. It is the first time in history, I would say, the first time in history where the Palestinian Authority forces are directly and openly combating Hamas groups. So like you just mentioned, there is a direct confrontation, not only because they want to fight Israel, but also because they want to take power in Ramallah and to substitute Abu Mazen leadership by a Hamas leadership. And today's example is, again, one of the elements showing this new wave of Islamic terror against Israel, but also, like you just mentioned, against the Palestinian Authority interest.
Certainly a lot of tension bubbling under the surface. If you can just say briefly how in Gaza they may react to this, is there a chance they're going to try to do something over there?
You see, Israel is not looking for a direct contact confrontation with Gaza Strip, because there is today, as you know, and you mentioned it many times on I-24 in English, a kind of, I would say, negotiation process in order to relieve the soldiers' corpse and the two kidnapped Israeli in the Gaza Strip. But in the same time, we cannot.
Yeah, we're having